Dr. Blatchley.
Yes.
Is that you?
It is.
It's a pleasure to see you here.
Yes, well, sit down.
Thank you.
Pull up a log.
Thank you.
Yes.
I can't believe it's you. It's so nice to see you here.
It's nice to be seen next to my wonderful home.
It is. It's such a pleasure to meet you here. And I see you're working with your nature book.
Oh, this is the Nature Nook.
The Nature Nook book.
Okay. This is my favorite one. I have 13 books, but this is my favorite. It's very special.
Well, tell me about it. What's it about?
Oh, well, where should I start? It's about the natural history of this vicinity of this wonderful community we call Dunedin. And it chronicles the time from 1913 to 1930, where Clara and I, beautiful wife Clara, bless her soul, she passed along, but we'll talk about that later. We built the home here, as you see, in 1915, and the Nature Nook is taken. The title is taken from the place in which I sat. There's a tree that we'll look at later, and it's a big oak tree with a forked. And I built a little platform, and I could observe the wonderful sea life and the insects and the trees, and I chronicle this over the many years, and it is a living history of our wonderful city.
It's amazing.
Now,
wow.
I say the city because we're out here in the country.
Oh, yes.
The city is half a mile down this way, where the 1,700 people, too many people, but Clara and I love it out here in the quietude of the city, but we enjoy this place. And there's one thing I want to add. This home has been here for many, many years. It was built in 1915, and several people told us, they said to Clara and me, Willis, there's no hurricane. You don't have to worry about it. But I built the home, I had the contractor, the builder build the home, where we clamped the roof to the walls and the walls to the ground to make sure that it would have to either go all at once or it wouldn't fly apart. And in 1918, 3 years after we built the home, homes were destroyed. The Calanese Island, my friend Henry Schauer and his lovely daughter were almost drowned out there.
Wow.
And some people were drowned, but the home stood and it stayed fast. And one of these days, there's gonna be a code that the city will enforce that'll make people do that for hurricane protection.
I bet.
That being said, it's a lovely home, and you're welcome here. Are you comfortable?
I am. It's so nice to just sit and chat with you.
Well, I don't like regular furniture.
No.
I like nature.
That's great.
Well, except those developers.
Oh, what about them?
Oh, in the 20s. Oh, don't get me started. I told you I love the quietude and the peace here. They came speculating for land, draining wetlands, cutting trees, raping the yards. Oh, it was awful. The landscape was decimated by their greed, and Clara and I did all we could to support and to prevent that, but to no avail. They even talked about building a seawall, so homes could sit right on the water without being flooded. They could get more property that way. But aside from that, I like insects, and I like fish, and I've written books on both, and it's a marvelous array of wildlife in this area. And in here, this is probably the original, most complete history of the community of Dunedin. And it's not a scientific journal.
Okay.
It has a little of my poetry in it.
A little bit like a diary of Dunedin.
It is a diary from my nook.
Okay.
And well, you asked me about what that is, and that's, I hope, have you read this? Would you like a copy?
I would love to see a copy of that.
Well, I hope you can make copies available for the community too.
I hope so.
Well, thank you. Well, if you don't mind, I need to return to my book.
Well, it was a pleasure seeing you.
Well, it's a pleasure seeing you too.
And
what was your name?
Vinny.
Vinny. Yes. Well, Vinny, I'd like.
Someday I'd like to see a copy of that.
I said that a minute ago, didn't I? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, all right. Well, excuse me.
Okay.
Thank you for the visit.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you for
Bye-bye.
the visit. That was nice. Oh, yes. After a cool spell, sometimes of several days' duration. The air gradually warms up, and the days seem like those sunny ones in the early spring.
Here at Weaver Park in front of the Blatchley home, I'll be talking to George Nigro, member of the Dunedin Historical Society, and talking about his special project he's working on with the museum, all about holding an original copy of my Nature Nook. George, welcome today.
Thank you, Vinny.
Been a wonderful experience that you've been working on. Kind of tell me about what's this all about, the Nature Nook. Tell me about it.
Yeah, great. Well, it's a great story. As you know, Dr. Blatchley wrote this book right here. It's the only personal narrative about life in Dunedin in the early 1900s. There is nothing to compare to it. And a little bit of research that we did at the Historical Society was to discover that it's out of print, it's out of circulation, it's out of copyright. We spent about a year and a half trying to find a copy on the internet. We found one copy.
Okay.
And so we made a commitment that since this was part of the history of Dunedin, we were going to save the book for Dunedin's history.
Okay.
And so we undertook the project of raising sufficient money to cover the cost of development of the book. People came forward, businesses came forward, institutions came forward, and contributed money to raise sufficient copies, sufficient money to reprint the entire book. And we've reprinted it in a beautiful leather-bound copy, a copy that certainly Dr. Blatchley would be very proud of. The paper is what's called green paper.
Okay.
It's produced from trees that are specifically grown for paper production. And as soon as the tree is harvested, another tree is replanted in its place. The leather that was chosen for the book is meant to match the color of the oak trees, upon which Dr. Blatchley placed his platform and wrote this magnificent book.
Kind of going back to nature all the way.
And the book is going to be available for purchase in time for this coming Christmas season. We're very proud of that.
Now, you've mentioned you've made how many copies of the leatherbound?
Yes, it's a great question. We made 150 collector's edition copies of the leatherbound and 150 paperbound copies, all of which are going to be available for sale exclusively at our Dunedin Historical Museum.
I really want to tell the people that we've actually sold quite a few already, and that the first copy is actually going to the city. Am I correct on that? The first copy, yes, is going to be dedicated to the city. We're going to present it to the city, and we're going to present it with a plaque listing all of the patrons who contributed so much to the resurrecting, restoring, reprinting this very important part of Dunedin's history. And you mentioned that this is a completely Dunedin city project, almost exclusively all made in this area, produced, and the patrons who've been involved with this, and there'll be thank yous for the patron at this event and everything else.
Yes, we have so much to be proud of in the production of this book. It was written in Dunedin, someplace near here on a platform on a tree, someplace on his property.
And you mentioned that it will be available at the museum and possibly other sources as well.
Yes, it'll begin to be available effective on November 11th at the library at 2 p.m. We're going to have a special presentation.
Right.
We hope Dr. Blatchley shows up, in fact. I don't know if he'll ever do that again, but who knows. We hope Dr. Blatchley, we hope will be there. We'll be interviewing him, talking about his life in Dunedin, and then talking about the reprinting of the book.
Okay. It's a great, worthy project. This book hasn't, like you said, been available since 1931.
Right.
It's been a long time due, and I think a lot of people will love the reading. It's easy reading, and it's really enjoyable, and it's life in Dunedin as it was.
As it was, and as it'll never be again.
Yes. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome,
I appreciate it.